What's up, everybody? It's Billy Nash. It's episode 19 of my podcast. We're here live in Pod Populi studio in Palm Beach Gardens, Florida. Beautiful South Florida. And no, it is not flooding anymore in South Florida, but we had a hell of a rainstorm last week, 27 inches in Fort Lauderdale. And for a second there, I thought we had to build an ark, but everything's dried out. The sun's back out and we're back to the sunny days of Florida. So I am super excited for today's guest. This is somebody that I have looked up to my whole life. And if you listen to my first podcast when I talked a little about my history and where I came from the basement to the boardroom, one of the things that helped shape the man I am today and a lot of the values that I hold dear to my heart and the way I speak to my children and have raised my children is a lot to do with the Big Brother, Big Sister program, which I was able to be fortunate enough when I was 8 years old to be matched up with this Jet fan sitting across from me that's actually has his New Jersey Devils hat and his New York Jet shirt on. Jack Kelly, who is my big brother from the Big Brother Big Sister program, and Jack and I have been super close, literally for 45 years. Holy crap. 45 years I've been stuck with this guy. Oh, Madonna Mia. But Jack, welcome to the studio. I'm so glad that you're here this week visiting us in Florida. And I thought, what a special thing to do to bring you in here and talk a little bit about mentoring and how you and I have become such great friends over the years, and so many of the things that you've taught me in my life and how I use them today with my kids and just the whole mentoring program. And so I'm really psyched that you're here, Jack, and you'll probably be the first guest that we've had that will probably edit out everything that you say.
Well, I hope I don't pull a Ralph Cramden here, Billy, but yeah, thank you. That's quite a buildup, but thank you very much.
Well, listen, Jack, you and I, like I said, I mean, you've been my best friend for a long, long, long time. And your family took me in as well as part of their own, and they still do, yeah. So I don't even consider us friends. We are family, literally.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So Jack, you tell us a little bit about, before we get into the Big Brother, Big Sister program, and again, when people think about, luxury real estate, what does this have to do with luxury real estate? I think everything you do in your life is little puzzles, pieces of the puzzles that you put together to make you a stronger person, stronger with your family, stronger in your business, stronger in your relationships. So everything in the way I look at it is kind of like a Rubik's Cube, right? You're spinning around, you're trying to figure out the solution. So a lot of things that happen to you during your life, lead up to your success. And this was a big part of my life, which led to my success and the way I handle a lot of things in my life. So Jack, tell me where were you born, Jack?
I had the honor to be born in Elizabeth, New Jersey. It was basically a blue-collar town at that point. And I had the honor to be born into a family, pretty much Irish Catholic. My dad was a World War II vet. My mom, all her brothers were veterans. And I just was typical, I think, of that era. I was one of 5 children. We had a lot of uncles and aunts who were mentors to us, as well as my parents. And that's it. It was a different time to be born, I think. And it was stressed very hard on all of us that we do our best. We be considerate of other people, particularly our siblings, which was not always easy. And it was just a nice upbringing at a time when everybody wanted, if you were a kid, everybody wanted to be Mickey Mantle or Willie Mays or Gil Hodges. Everybody wanted to be Johnny Unitas, that kind of an environment.
Yeah. And so Jack, tell me, so your background and, after college, you decided to, what was your next move? I mean, I know the answer, but I think for our listeners, I think you have a very interesting background.
Well, I was a typical baby boomer. I was fortunate enough to, get into Seton Hall University. I played baseball at Seton Hall. My senior year, we made it to the College World Series. We had great pitching on our team. And while in there, it was the Vietnam era. And the country was going through some major revolutions as far as a new awareness. And so I enlisted while I was in the senior year in college into the Navy. I was accepted. I earned a commission. Wasn't in long, about a year, and they had a reserve officer cutback. So I took my GI Bill and I went to law school. I wouldn't have been able to afford it otherwise.
And you went to Seton Hall.
Seton Hall University Law School.
And that was the College World Series in Omaha in 1971.
That was 71. And I just found out your wife was born in Omaha.
How funny is that? We were talking last night and Jack was talking about Omaha. Not a lot of people know this, but Tracy, my significant other, my beautiful wife, Tracy, was born in Omaha. And Jack was telling a story about when they were out in Omaha and his good friend, Eddie Nestor, who I know very well, and some of the guys. And when they were talking about being out in Omaha, and there were storms. One of Jack's friends said, like tornadoes, like the Wizard of Oz.
Right. We checked into the Blackstone Hotel, the team, and they told us there were tornado warnings and to keep our windows open. And we were looking at each other because everybody was from the metropolitan area, Brooklyn, Newark or whatever. And we just basically said, you mean like in the Wizard of Oz?
I think that is so funny. Some Metropolitan Jersey boys, New Yorkers, kids from Brooklyn, they never saw a tornado before, so they were looking for Dorothy.
Right, pretty much that's right. Yeah.
So after law school, Jack, I remember when I met you, it was interesting because my mother at the time, my parents had gotten divorced, and I was growing up with my mom, single mother, working 2 jobs. My sister, and my mom knew that there was something missing in my life. And that thing that was missing in my life was having someone to look up to as a mentor, right? A male role model, that I can look up to, that can help with the things that, guys like to do, go fishing, go to football games, have that camaraderie. And my mother saw that there was a void there. And so she, on her own, I remember this, it's crazy. I remember Mom telling me about this big brother, big sister program, and I was probably in 3rd grade. And she said, put down all of your interests, fishing and baseball and all these kind of fun things. And there's someone that we think that you should meet. And it turns out it was Jack. So I remember that day when you came over after, because I think you were working at a law firm, or I don't know if you were working at the Attorney General yet.
No, it was, Bill, I had just come down. I was in Hartford, Connecticut with an institutional brokerage firm and was going to go down to Washington, D.C. With the SEC, but decided not to stay in the Jersey area. So I was working for a law firm in Asbury Park, a great defense firm, taught me a lot. But while there, I had heard about the Big Brothers, Big Sisters program in law school. I felt it was a worthy cause. Basically, 2 things motivated me. Number one, I said, dear God, if you ever let me pass the bar exam, I'll do something good. Number 2 was I realized, and it's a nice thing to hear when you're with the program, when people want to get involved, it's the same motivation. They know how good they've had it with their mentors in their lives. And that was my situation. I had my dad and my uncles, great uncles, my uncle Joe, who was a World War II veteran, highly decorated. My other uncles like Tom Sharkey, who had pitched for Seton Hall and also pitched in the Tiger organization. A lot of great guys. And so I felt I had to give something back. And I thought the Big Brother, Big Sister program was very worthy because a lot of kids didn't have what I had. And that's why I got interested in it and became a volunteer.
Yeah, it's an amazing program. So Jack and I remember, over the years, so many things that Jack introduced me to, unfortunately the New York Jets. But over the years, we've had some amazing experiences. But Jack, I remember, Jack, do you remember the day that you came over to the apartment?
Vividly, because you haven't let me live it down. That's the problem. No, it was very simple. I was introduced, the case manager and the head of Big Brothers, Big Sisters of Monmouth County, came over to your house. And,
Debbie Heptig.
Debbie Heptig.
Still remember her name.
Yeah, and Cindy Botman. There was a couple of really great people. But they brought me over to your house after I had gone through the grilling, which you have to do because they're matching a child with an adult. When it's done right, it's a pretty intense program to have to, pass muster, if you will.
Yeah, they got to be vetted. They want to make sure there's no creeps.
Exactly. Well, exactly. And so I'm being introduced now. Being from Elizabeth and being a Joe Namath fan, really from Alabama days, who I got into pretty much because of my brother Dan, my younger brother Daniel Hugh Kelly, who's a great actor in his own right, very successful. We got into the Jets big time, and I think Namath, Don Maynard, Weeb Eubank, those guys just Winston Hill, Emerson Boozer, Matt Snell, they just mesmerized us. So we were big fans. And I'm introduced to Billy in his little room in his 2-bedroom apartment, living with his mother, his grandmother, his sister. And
Good
Billy.
old Long Branch, New Jersey, Bath Avenue, New Jersey.
And so they introduced me, and Billy was very excited. He said, "Would you like to see my room?" And I said, "Sure." So we walk up the stairs, and first thing I see in Billy's little closet of a room is Dallas Cowboy posters, Dallas Cowboy garbage cans, Dallas Cowboy this, Dallas Cowboy. And I just took one look, and I turned around. I said, "I'm sorry, I can't be your big brother." Walked down the stairs, went to the head of the Big Brothers, Big Sisters of Monmouth County, and the case manager and Loretta, your mom, just said, "I'm sorry, there's been a big mistake. I can't be his big brother." And I walked out the door, and Billy went running after me, and I turned around, and it was like I just said, "If you want to be my little brother, you have to be a Jet fan, and you have to be a Jet fan now." And Billy said, "Okay, sure, okay." And he dumped the Cowboys, and I have never lived it down because all I've heard from Billy is how the Dallas Cowboys have gone on to win 4 Super Bowls or whatever, and the Jets can't get out of the cellar since Namath left the team. So yes, I remember that day, Bill. Thank you for reminding me.
Well, guess what? We got Aaron Rodgers coming.
We hope.
Another disaster.
But we'll see.
Oh, God. The Brett Favre flashback.
Faith goes on, hope lives eternal.
And unfortunately, I've passed the wand onto, I passed the wand onto Cole.
We've ruined a lot of younger kids.
We've ruined a lot of kids. So Cole is actually now a New York Jet fan. My son, who was 18 years old, 6'5", up in Gainesville, Florida, in college.
Yes.
And Cole is a diehard, bleeds green Jet fan. And even Cole says to me, "Dad, are they ever going to win?" And I said, "Ask Uncle Jack about that."
I'm excited about this team. I mean, the coach, this guy's really good, and I think he's got these guys motivated. They like him. And for nothing else, this year, the past season, we were in it up to the last couple of weeks, and that was great. I mean, it was a little bit like old times.
By the way, with the story that Jack is just saying to everybody that's listening, I've heard that for 45 years. They stink, but we can never give up hope.
No. Hope springs eternal.
But I can remember, let's go back to the whole, the mentoring and why it's important. So if you're listening and you're an entrepreneur and you're building your real estate business, or you have an established real estate practice, here or anywhere in the United States, and you have time, we talked about giving back to your community. Giving back is so important. And that's something that I was taught by Jack, over the years, because the time that he had spent with me and his family taking me in as one of their own is an absolute unbelievable experience. Like, I am part of their family. Jack is part of my family. Jack, Nancy, Jack's wife, who is awesome. I mean, I knew Jack before Nancy. Like, I'm pre-Nancy.
Hard to believe.
You're hard to believe. So now Jack has a beautiful family. He's got 9 grandkids now.
Yes, we just had, in fact, the day before yesterday, 3:30 in the morning, our newest addition came along, little Callan, John DaCosta, was born 3:30 on Friday morning. And
another Jet fan.
Well, we're going to
poor kid.
He's going to be. But anyway, he's
poor kid.
His first name is named after a great Irish rugby player, as I understand it. But no, I think that getting back to the Big Brother, Big Sister mentoring program, I growing up when I did, very inspired by the words of people like Jack Kennedy, who said that children are this nation's greatest resource, and they are our best hope for the future. It's true. And when you get involved in a program like this, either as a volunteer or as a supporter with funds, or just attending the events that they have to sponsor the program, it really is important, because the whole goal is to take a kid in a disadvantaged situation and let that little child see that, hey, the horizon out there is not what's immediately in front of you. The horizon is way out there. And it's a beautiful horizon. And you try and expose the kids to just what's out there in a good way. You listen to them, you let them talk, you give them, as God gives you the power to see it, good advice. And the funny thing about it is people that get involved with the program end up really realizing that they're getting a lot more out of it than they're giving. So it is a great program.
And so Jack and I, it's interesting. So the Big Brother, Big Sister program after 2008 and the financial collapse had a lot of issues with raising funds. And there was something that I wanted to dedicate and give back because of my experience in the program. So I said, listen, I know a lot of famous dudes and gals, and I would love to have and host a Big Brother, Big Sister, Billy Nash celebrity golf outing.
Right.
And so before this place was going to go, close their doors, because what happens is the kids suffer, right? Because they're not being able to be matched up because a lot of the corporate funding dried up in 08, 09 after the financial collapse. And I was at Bear Stearns at the time.
Right.
But I said to myself, wait a second. I know a lot of rich dudes. I know a lot of famous people. I belong to one of the best country clubs on the planet. I'm going to host a celebrity golf outing and save Big Brother, Big Sisters of Ocean County. And also some funding went to the Monmouth County program as well. I'm going to save these two organizations and get a bunch of people together to write big checks, raise money, meet some cool celebrity friends of mine, John Starks, Rodney Hampton, Tony Saragusa, Jeff Nelson. I mean, the list goes on. Ron Duguay of the of the Rangers, Ken Danico, the Devils, who was, by the way, just finished beating everybody up in the NHL, Jimmy Dowd from the New Jersey Devils. Sure. The list goes on and on and on again. These are all my friends and my relationships. So I put this golf outing together, and we had 18 foursomes. It was $5,000 a foursome. We had cigar rollers. I flew in the comedian that won America's Got Talent. The Last Comic Standing. I flew him in from Las Vegas. And by the way, I was funnier than him. I felt bad for him because I actually did about a 15-minute skit before he came on, and then he looked at everybody and he goes, I don't know how I'm going to follow up with that. I actually felt bad for him. I think I gave him a little bit extra money because he flopped, but we had a great time. So I had that outing every year. So my first outing for Big Brother, Big Sisters, I think I raised $160,000, which is unheard of. I mean, that's a lot of money for your first outing. And we had an amazing time. We were able to get that money to the program to help to continue to match little boys and little girls with Big Brothers and Big Sisters. And it was a huge success. And over the next 4 years, I had that every year. I actually moved it from Due Process to Matita Conch Golf Club. And we had it there. And then 2013 hits Hurricane Sandy. We moved to Florida. And I haven't had the Big Brother, Big Sister outing since, but there are other programs now that I'm involved in here in South Florida, that are multiple causes. But it is on my radar, or Jack says on the horizon, to potentially do something here in South Florida for Big Brother, Big Sisters. So just don't worry about it. I'm warming up to something big coming soon. And, since Tony passed away last year, one of my best friends, Tony Saragusa, the Goose, we love him. We miss him. He loved Jack. Jack loved him. I miss him tremendously. But something around Tony's foundation, he loved coming to the Big Brother, Big Sister program. And so we will do something, I think, next year for Big Brother, Big Sisters here in South Florida. So, Jack, let me ask you something. From a scale from 1 to 10, how good of a kid was I?
Do I have to answer that? No, Billy was a wonderful kid. And people relate to Billy it's pretty obvious if you listen here. I mean, the thing about Billy when he meets you is you get the feeling after a short period of time that you are the greatest thing since mashed potatoes. And with Billy, the cup is always 3/4 full. And he's always up and always in good attitude and just totally into being a good friend and excited about it. And I think that's what his charm is. I think that's what his secret to success is.
I appreciate that very much, Jack. And I remember some things I say on the podcast to people that are core listeners when I say stuff like, if you throw a slice of bread out into the wind.
That was my dad's saying.
So finish that, Jack, because that's something I think about. What does that mean?
My father, well, it's an old saying, I guess. My father had tons of old sayings like too soon old, too late smart. But one of his sayings, and he used to say it to us kids and to my brother and sisters and Billy, was that, you throw a piece of bread out on the water and it'll float back to you double sized.
Yep, broken up in pieces. Those are the things that, and I can remember, even just little things like, Jack probably doesn't realize this, but even taking the shells, walking along the beach in Seagirt, and we go out there on like a windy day and the wind be blowing like 30 knots, like, pre-nor'easter, and we would throw the shells, like the side shells, and we throw them into the wind and see if we can catch them into the wind so they would like bank back like boomerangs. Right. We'd have to run from some of them, and and the game was to see if we can get them to smash
against the
back
jetties.
On the jetty.
Yes,
See, and I was 9 years old, 10 years old, and I still remember those fun shell tossing days.
Oh, it was great. That was the thing. I introduced Billy. That was part of it. Introducing your little to things that are out there. We did good things like, jet games, obviously, with my uncle and my best friends, Eddie Nestor, John Mucci. We'd be taking them over to Billy over to Shea Stadium at the time, and then it became the Meadowlands, and things like just going to see a movie like Superman or Moonraker.
Let's see. I saw so many movies with Jack. That was the best thing. We go to the movie theater, and I saw Star Wars and Moonraker, Big James Bond. Right. With Jack's dad, I went to go see The Big Red One with Lee Marvin, which is an excellent World War II movie. If you've never seen The Big Red One, I'd suggest getting it. It's phenomenal. But stuff like that, being a little kid, eating popcorn, talking about life. I remember one time, and Jack probably doesn't remember this, but we were supposed to go skiing. And I was in, I think, about 6. He's looking like, when? We were supposed to go up to we were supposed to go to Hunter.
That's okay, yeah.
And I fucked up. I got some bad grades. And I think I was in like 6th grade or 5th grade. And I was all excited. I was all excited to go skiing. Woohoo! So Jack picked me up and he says, "Unfortunately, we're not going skiing." Right. I said, "Why? Why?" You said, "You're going to have to work on some of your math skills."
Well, that's on the ride out. First thing we'd be asked, because this is what my uncles did with me. How would you do this week in school? How'd you do in sports or whatever? And I made clear to Billy that the only two kinds of people we didn't like were, number one, people who were bullies. And number two, people who, didn't try their best. If you're pulling C's and the best you could do was C's, we loved you. But if you could pull A's and you were pulling C's, then, you weren't doing your job. And that was drilled into me and my siblings. But going back to the movies, my brother Dan really got into acting. He's an Elizabeth kid, tough as nails, but that was one thing he liked, and he made a good living at it. And Billy got to meet people in that realm.
That was cool. So I'll tell you. Yeah. So Jack's brother is Danny Hugh Kelly. Danny is awesome, and Dan is also, a big brother to me. Right. And when I would come out, he's like, "Look at this little runt." Right. When I'd come in, and Dan was when I was a little boy. Dan got his first real role because he was committed to acting. The Broadway stuff and Shakespeare, and a lot of true actors are. Yeah. That's their background. And Dan's first role was he was the senator on Ryan's Hope. And that was the soap opera. And I remember Dan giving me the script, and I was able to take it to school. I was at Holy Trinity, and I think it was probably about 4th grade. And I brought the script, and I said, "This is my big brother's younger brother." And, and they're like, "Nash, Kelly, how did everybody was confused, but Dan went on to be a super successful actor. He's done many, many, many roles. He was in Cujo, Stephen King's Cujo movie. Dan was Hardcastle and McCormick. I'm not sure if anybody remembers the show Hardcastle and McCormick. That was Dan driving the red Coyote. And he had a good, 8-9 year run on that?
Well, it was only, no, actually.
It felt like it was longer.
He could have went longer, but Dan and Brian Keith was born in Bayonne, again, and they hit it off really well, and it showed, and it was a Stephen J. Cannell production, but the point.
4 years?
4 years, and then, he and Brian moved on. That's part of the thing. You do something, and then you try and step up from there. But he was also doing Broadway. He did Cat on a Hot Tin Roof with Kathleen Turner.
I remember that.
He did a lot of stuff. And here he is. He's mentoring Billy. And
so cool. I remember being in Star Trek. I'm like, oh, my God, Danny's in Star Trek.
Billy was our altar boy when Nancy and I got married. And Dan was my best man, of course. And,
that's right. Did you hear that? I was Jack's altar boy for his wedding with Nancy.
Yeah.
And wait till you see those pictures. I should post some of those.
No, I don't think so. Please don't.
And Jack was, Jack was at my confirmation. So many things and experiences that I'm so fortunate in my life to have, and to be able to give those things back now to my children and being a mentor to so many. It is a direct reflection because of my relationship and how fortunate I was to have Jack and still have Jack in my life. So it's very important. So this week that you're here is incredible. I'm so excited that you're here.
Well, thanks, Bill. It's really an honor, and it's a beautiful area. I thinking on it all, I think the people that get involved in programs like this are saints. People like Sue Sedovic, who was the exec at the Big Brothers Big Sisters of Ocean County. When I was in, she took it from a struggling little organization and just blew it into the stratosphere. And she was instrumental in getting the Littles in Waiting, which was a program set up that Big Brothers Big Sisters eventually really got into, which was they didn't have enough mentors to go around. They didn't have enough people to match up with the Littles. So what they did was they got high school kids involved who were trying to get into college to go to the different local public schools around where kids were struggling or didn't have that. And under supervision of the Big Brothers Big Sisters staff, after school, they would meet with these high schoolers would meet with the Littles in waiting and do everything from helping them with their homework to teaching them on their jump shots.
And one of the things I have to emphasize too about this program is once you make that commitment, it's a commitment. So it's not like you could just, you meet a kid a couple times and then you're done, because when you're a little boy or a little girl, you're looking up to them. Right. You have a desire to be taught and to experience things that might not be in your life at that time. So when those things happen, they become lifelong memories. So you don't have to make that lifelong commitment like Jack did with me, because like once he met me, he was stuck with me. I wasn't going nowhere. So and anybody that knows,
I couldn't get rid of him.
You can't get rid of him.
He ended up being my financial advisor. I mean, that's how bad it got.
Exactly. I was Jack's financial advisor for over 20 years, which is pretty cool. So, right. But one of the things, even if you're a volunteer at an event to help kids, it's still good karma. It's still giving back. And you don't have to make a 45-year commitment. Just show up, go to the bowl-a-thon, donate a couple bucks. It's good karma.
Or if you can, if you're, in their fundraising, and there's so many good charities out there, so many good causes that, Big Brothers Big Sisters is one of many, and we appreciate that. And as Billy mentioned, after the financial crisis, after the pandemic, donations go down, and going to Billy's point, if you are a business person be supportive, because it is expensive. When I went on Big Brothers, I thought I knew it all, but boy, when you get into it, realizing the cost of having qualified people to prepare for these matches, knowing, having to do the background checks, having to do the sit downs, having to do the follow-up, the monitoring constantly on the matches and seeing how they're going to make sure everything sounds right. It costs a lot of money. And it's such a good cause because, like I said, you're taking a kid in a disadvantaged situation whose horizon might be rather close to their eyes and expanding that out to, the mountains and the oceans. It's just so much out there.
And that's exactly what happened with me and Jack. So I'm going to end it with that. I really appreciate everybody listening. I'm super excited. Jack's here for the week. So we're going to spend some time. I'm looking to show him around town. I'm going to bring him down to Palm Beach Island. We're not going to watch any New York Jet reruns, but we're going to go to some cool restaurants. I'm going to take him on, my cousin's invited him to go sailing on his sailboat. So we're going to get out and do some fun stuff on the blue water here in the Palm Beaches. Thank you everybody for listening. Again, I love you. Go out there and do some deals and keep your eyes out for the big brother, big sister South Florida outing that I think I'm going to have to plan soon.
That'd be great.
Give me a great rating, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and I'll talk to everybody soon. I love yous. It's Billy Nash.